Welcome back to Make America Remote Again. And in this episode, it is a solo podcast, guys. Really excited for some of the guests I have lined up for this year and continuing spreading the message of making America remote again, right? And it's not just making America remote again. I want the whole world to be able to work remotely from the comfort of their own home or anywhere in the world that they choose to. So I want to dive into the 3 lessons that I learned from failures. And then I'm going to follow that up with 3 lessons I learned from my successes, because boy, there's been a lot of awesome things happening in the company and in my life, thank God. So the first thing about failure is I had a tendency of keeping people on too long, specifically culture vultures. What I mean by this is that culture vultures that I've kept in the past are people that were hitting their KPIs, people that were on time showing up, people that were going above and beyond. But for some reason, they would just not get along with certain team members. For some reason, their meetings felt poisonous. But because I had this mirage in my head, though, as long as they're hitting the numbers, it's okay, I almost hurt a lot of people in my company in terms of keeping the wrong people. And this is something that I just learned recently. They're hitting their numbers and they're doing what they're supposed to do, but they are hurting your culture. You're going to cause a lot of feud in your company between your leaders, between the leaders, between the members, and the culture just slowly starts eroding. You don't want that. And it doesn't matter that someone's hitting their numbers if they're a culture vulture. They're hitting their numbers, that's great, but they better be a culture fit, because culture comes first. There's a saying in a space which is culture is king. And a lot of people overlook that. I overlook that as someone that's hired a lot of people, and I had to pay the price of potentially losing other leaders, potentially losing business, potentially losing candidates. It was a complete SHIT show. The second one is something that cost me opportunities. In the last several years, I have attended a lot of events and I've attended a lot of conferences. And many of them, I was there, I was present. But there was a few, especially in 2024 and even more so in 2023, where I went to the event, but I chose to work because I had calls, whether it was my team or sales calls or whatever it is, instead of being attentive to the events. And this cost me so many different opportunities and so many different handshakes that could have helped us grow much further. And there's a specific event that I go to every single year. It actually happens twice a year. And it's with some of the biggest leaders in the space. And for some reason, my work just always came first, because I was not ready to just let go. I was not ready to delegate. I was not ready to just not work during the week, because this event happens Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And usually Monday's a crazy day for us. Tuesday is also a very crazy day. And I just always felt like, hey, I'll show up sometimes and I'll come in whenever I want. And last year, I was like, you know what? The second event, I'm just going to not work the entire time. I'm not even going to check Slack. I'm just going to completely be present in this event. And that event changed my perspective on taking off, especially at a very important event. I made some of the highest level connections in the space with some top affiliates. We actually closed 2 clients from that event, and more importantly, I was able to be present and actually network with so many different people, because you never know who you're talking to. You never know who you're going to shake hands with. So if you're going to an event, you're going to a conference, make sure you blocked out the entire day. You're not taking sales calls, you're not taking team meeting calls. Most events you have time to prep for. You know you're going to an event usually weeks, sometimes months ahead. That means that you have a lot of time to plan ahead of time before you actually go. So when you go, make sure it's blocked off. The last thing that I learned from my failures is lack of accountability. Specifically, lack of accountability with people I'm around, right? I live with roommates, and at times I was noticing that I'm not holding them accountable and they're not holding me accountable. And if you have the opportunity to live with other people, you better make sure that they're holding you accountable and you're holding them accountable. In order to grow, you must surround yourself with the right people, where every single day you are leveling up in some aspect, whether it's in content, in sales, in backend, and systems, whatever that case may be. If the people around you don't know your goals, your vision, your mission, where you're trying to be in the next few years, you're probably either stupid for not telling anybody, or you're around the wrong people. Both are the wrong answer. So make sure that if you're living with people, you're absolutely holding them accountable for their goals, and vice versa, they're doing the same with you. Now let's say you don't live with anybody, because I've lived the majority of my time solo, then you better connect with people online, right? Whether you have a team, whether you have friends online, and they hold you accountable, right? It's a lot easier to do it in person because you see people every day. But guess what? You have people that you follow on Instagram, follow you back, people that you consider friends. Let them know what your goals are and have them hold you accountable, right? Does this mean you have to check in every single day, all day? No. But once a week, check in, maybe twice a week. But make sure people understand where you're trying to head to, because they're either going to help you get there or they're in the way. And it's your choice and your decision of how to make sure that your goals get achieved. Your goals are there. You created them. No one else is responsible for them. It's you. It's your mission. It's your vision. It's your daily routines. It's your daily habits. And most importantly, it's the people that you're around. Otherwise, you're going to continuously suffer and continuously not be able to hit the goals that you set yourself out to. Now, let's talk about some successes, because there were some lessons from success, and a lot of people overlook the success lessons you're going to have. And what's interesting to me is that we learn more from our failures, for sure. Right? When an NFL player, when a college football player, whatever, sports athlete, when they're watching tape, majority of the time it's their mess ups. It's when they didn't move fast enough, when they didn't catch the ball, when they didn't shoot the ball. It's usually you learn more from failures. However, don't overlook what you can learn from your successes, because when you've won and you've achieved certain things, there's a clear formula behind that, and it is important to study this. So before I dive into this, one tip I have for you guys: a lot of times sales trainers or even leaders in general, when they review calls, whether it's for sales or for client success, lead managers, whatever the case may be, a lot of times they review bad or calls. Totally get it. Sometimes there's a lot of things to learn. But you should also dedicate to at least once a week, I would say no less than once every 2 weeks, to review a sales win or review a client win, where you can see, okay, there's a clear formula. I showed up on time. I knew exactly what this person was looking for. I asked the right questions. I dug deep. I reframed the call. I made sure I took control, whatever the case may be. So that way the person you're reviewing this with, they can see, okay, this is like a pretty damn good call. When I review a bad call, clearly there's certain things you didn't do here that you did in the other call. Okay, so this is very, very important. Here are 3 things I learned from my successes. So number 1, just because you sell online and you made a lot of money from sales does not mean you can build a business. And I've sold millions of dollars in the high ticket space, and it took me years, and I'm still learning how to actually build a profitable, scalable business. Now, while we have grown and we have doubled in the last several years, our profit margins has lowered because my spending went completely nuts last year, with expenses being really high. So one of the things that I'm learning a lot more this year, speaking with CFO of high-level companies and being able to actually see and understand numbers, is finances. Just because you know how to sell does not mean you know how to play the finance game, right? We now have talked to a CFO, a really high-level CFO, and we also are in a program that teaches us about credit card points and how to move points to a certain place, because especially if you're spending 20, 30, 40, 50K a month and people are spending way more than that, you want to make sure you're assessing every single thing much more analytically when it comes to finances. And again, just because you know how to sell does not mean you know how to build a business. That's a very huge misperception. I had that misconception for a long time, because I was like, yeah, I know how to bring on new clients. Yeah, I know how to sell people. Yeah, I know how to, take control of the conversation, human psychology, all that stuff. That's a very important part. That's a big piece of the company. That's not everything, right? There's fulfillment. There's marketing. There's how to hire. There's culture. There's finances. A lot of stuff that don't directly correlate with sales, although sales is very important. So just because you're good at sales does not mean you're going to be good at building a business, and it takes time. And what I recommend, hire someone to help you out. Stop trying to figure out things by yourself. The second thing is traveling. And although I love traveling, it's one of my favorite things to do in the world. I've been to 13 countries now, not that many, but more than I would say a lot of people. A lot of times travel can be very distracting, because what happens is if you're not planning your travels accordingly, whether you're traveling and working alongside or traveling just to vacation, you better make sure that you're planning out exactly how it happens. Now, I want to talk specifically when you're traveling and you're working, because when you're on vacation, it's pretty easy. Just don't touch your computer. But when you're traveling, but you also want to enjoy your time, and at the same time you want to work, you better be prepared for time zone shifts, weather, Wi-Fi issues, and most importantly, your health. Because if you're not getting the right sleep, you're not getting the right nutrients, you're going to struggle, right? Even if it's for 1 or 2 weeks, you want to make sure that you are prepared, especially if you're traveling abroad and you're going to Europe from the Western Hemisphere. You're going to work 6, 7, 8 hours ahead of what you're currently used to. So you want to be prepared of how am I going to do this and almost visualize your calendar. What I would do, and I haven't done this yet because I haven't been to Europe, but when I'm going to Europe at some point this year or next year, I'm going to set my calendar a couple weeks before, and make sure that I'm literally planning out my days much more efficiently than I am right now. Right now, my calendar gets filled up. It's already pretty consistently. We have the same meetings that we're doing every single week. Sure. And the times I'm doing sales calls, whenever my closer needs a little bit of help or he's not around, whatever the case may be. But if I'm going to Europe and I'm understanding that, oh my gosh, I have some multiple hours ahead, I better be prepared. And a lot of people just travel to work and work at the same time, and they have no preparation, and then they lose sleep. Their health deteriorates, their performance deteriorates, and then it's a shit show, and then they come back, and now there's like, they're potentially on a PIP. You're potentially, the company took a step back, all because this one person didn't do their job. You never want to be that person. You also don't want to be that boss and that CEO, so you want to be prepared. But when you prepare, you have nothing to worry about, right? Or I wouldn't say nothing, but there's a lot less things to worry about, right? So preparation is the key to traveling, and also making sure you're aligning with your goals and your regime, and you're doing your best at modifying your current habits to making sure that you're still able to achieve your KPIs, your goals, your team calls, whatever the case may be. That's the second thing, is travel's incredible, but make sure you plan ahead. The last thing is, I've been super blessed, and not just me, but my company, with hiring A players, specifically internally, but obviously we've hired a lot of A players for our clients, right? We've hired 1,500 people. We're going to take a guess that a lot of them have been A players. But internally, we've been very lucky at finding the right people. And, I don't want to say lucky, but there's a luck component to it as well. We're also very skilled at what we do. But here's the thing with A players, guys. A players are hungry. A players want to eat. They want to do more. They want to earn more money. They want to get better. And if you're limiting A players from doing more work, from being creative, from being able to achieve more, you are doing yourself such a disservice, because an A player is not going to stick around for a long time if they don't see growth. Right? And a lot of times growth has two things. It's growth in terms of the role, more importantly, growth in terms of pay. So you better have a roadmap for your A players. So I've been very blessed at having A players in my company. Unfortunately, I've had 1 or 2 A players in the last 4 years leave because I did not prepare correctly, whether it was not giving them the right raise at the right time, not giving them a direct roadmap of what they're able to achieve, maybe not putting them in the right seat at all. It could be many different things. It is your job and responsibility to make sure you're having one-on-one conversations with your A players consistently, knowing exactly what do they want out of the company and being able to align with them, and most importantly, creating this roadmap with them so they can go back to this roadmap, right? And roadmap can break down to months of how you're going to do this, of, hey, you can do it by quarterly, but being able to show them a plan of where they are now and where they want to get to. Because sometimes where they want to get to, you might not be able to get them there. But the thing is, your job is to help them level up consistently, because the more you help them out, the more they're going to be able to help you in the future. Whether it is with finding someone, helping you replace that person, train that person, whatever the case may be, you want to make sure that you end the relationship as good as it starts. Never want to have toxic relationships, people that were super unhappy, whatever the case may be, even when they get let go. Now that's a story for another time, that's another video that I'll do, but make sure you're feeding your A players as much as possible. You're doing what they want, essentially, and by what I mean what they want is understand, where do they want to be in the next year? What are their goals? What are their ambitions? Who do they need to take care of? Are they living alone? Do they have kids? Like, if you don't know this about your A players, like, this is a very not good thing. So make sure you're connecting with your A players beyond anybody else on your team, because these are the people you're going to build your entire company around. These are the people you're going to place certain people in their department, and these are the people that are helping you, your vision and mission. They're seeing things from a different lens. They want to add on to your company. They feel like they're a partner in the company. True A players feel like they're literally a partner of the company. So if you don't know these little details about them and you don't know how to grow them, you're going to suffer by consistently having to replace A players. And last time I checked, people that replace A players end up with a team full of B players. And B players are just not going to take you very far. That's the reality. Everything's slower with B players. It's not the worst thing possible, but everything's slower, and the market is going to catch up, and you're not going to have a company. And you don't want that. I don't want that, because I want you to hire as many people from us as you can. So guys, that is really it. I didn't want to spend too much time on this episode. I have some awesome guests coming up in the next coming weeks. I'm going to be flying out to Tampa for a recruiting event. I'm going to be going to Las Vegas to meet Alex and Layla Hermosi. We're at an acquisition event, which is going to be super fun. No plans so far for April or May. I'm going to be turning 30 this year, which is pretty crazy to think about. But if you've been watching and you've been subscribed and you've been liking these interviews, we're going to make them better, and we're going to make America remote again. Thanks for watching the video. I'll see you on the next episode.